public may address the committee for up to 3 minutes on school and education matters. Complaints or allegations concerning specific employees or students will not be allowed, but will be addressed through established policies and procedures. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief and not repetitive. Before starting, please state your name and place of residence. Okay, and let's move on to superintendent's proposals and updates. The first action item we have is ratification of teacher 2021-2024 contracts.
Yes, I'm excited to recommend ratification of the 2021 to 2024 teacher contract.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Okay. Any comments or questions on that?
Can I
Oh,
think that we will
too.
vote by a roll call today because we have someone on Zoom. So Chairperson Hassanen.
Yes.
Okay, Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mundell,
Yes.
Member Sorg.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt, Member Sichters.
Most enthusiastic, yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and we have 3 informational items. The first is supporting the college application process.
We want to go back to
Oh,
the
let me
second
go
one,
to
I'm
this.
sorry.
Oh, this one right here.
Yep, so you're going
Sorry.
to want to go to,
You're right.
you're good.
Okay,
capital
you're right.
bond.
You're right. I apologize. I missed one. So the second action item is the capital bond and future capital purchases.
Okay, Director of Business Jerry Heyman will update the committee on the capital bonds and future capital purchases. And then afterwards, we'll have an action item.
This time I remember to push the button. So in your packet, there's a schedule of future bond activity. I do this every year for those members who are long-term, and for new members, you'll see this once a year. I like to keep the committee in touch with the major projects that the school is undertaking and which will require some sort of debt financing. So I'd like to briefly go over this list with you tonight. The first is a Fruit Street heating system that's currently in the design phase. Very soon, I'll come to you when it is ready to go out to bid to get your agreement to allow the school committee, the school to incur that debt for that system. The twin school of Vine Street, we're going to stagger it, and it's the same, pretty much the same design, but that's later. So that's will also be designed, but not bonded for a while now. But what I really want to talk about is the next couple. Bangor High electrical system, we've talked about this before. We have a vendor in mind, a successful vendor for a large portion of the project. We're ready to move forward. We have not signed the contract yet, but it is being developed. But what I need from you, I need to inform you that the total project is $3.923 million. That includes the general contractor and the engineering design fees. The next one is the generator that accompanies the project. We're going to do that separately. It wasn't in the original scope of work, but we're going to increase the amp service to the high school up to 2,500 amps, which is quite a bit. And to do that, we need a generator that can service that. That currently is not out for bid, but it's estimated to be up to $1 million. I did the high side of the bid because I didn't want to come back to you if I went lower and had to come back with a slightly higher number. The next is a little complicated because there are a couple pieces to it, but it's the Bangor roof. You've heard me talk about that before. Before this committee, we've already accepted a revolving loan fund for $1 million for this project from the state. But the other piece will have to incur some sort of financing. The whole project is $5,122,000. From the time the estimate was put together to the actual, it went up quite a bit thanks to the new COVID world we live in. So what I need from you is we're going to $1 million, like I said, is taken care of through that loan, but that leaves $4,122,000 to finance in some other way. And lastly, Cameron Stadium. There's one piece left to install. It's the piece of equipment's here. We just need the scheduling to work out, and it will be done probably in the next 30 days. And that issue will be in the spring for $2.73 million. That's the bond that went before the voters last year. So all that said, we've been saving some money. At your blessing, 2 years ago, or a year and a half, we put away $2.2 million from proceeds at the end of the fiscal 20 year. And we received some additional state appropriation this year. And we split it 3 ways. And part of it was to help fund these capital projects. And that was $869,000. So we have some savings on our own. We have that $1 million loan from the state, revolving loan fund, but the rest we're going to have to bond. So I'm here today to present these to you. And we have obviously actual general contractor bids and engineering fee bids on the 3 projects. So that's a summary of those.
Okay, so any questions from the school committee? Member Sixers?
So I don't, this isn't specific to this, but I was wondering if you had any knowledge or an update or any information at all about, I know we had the architect report out a few years ago on some school consolidation ideas, and like where any of that even is living at this point, because I would imagine that some of that would definitely affect the decisions that you have to make in terms of schools and stuff. So
When I came on board 2 years ago, one of the things I found was that study that was done in 2019 by Oak Point. I've since reviewed it with Superintendent Tagger to let him know that it exists and what it talked about, and what it suggested. And we're developing a plan because those pieces are so big, you really need to get on the state list to get some major funding. And obviously, we need to get doing that. We've talked about doing that in the next year. So it starts the process. Processes, I'm told, is a long process, but it doesn't start until we get on the list.
okay, awesome.
I think once we're on the list, isn't it about a 10-year process?
Yeah,
That's what I've heard, yes.
excellent. Thank you.
Member Sprague?
Thank you. Just because I'm new, could you explain the bid process of how you go out to solicit?
Sure. So we work with our engineering firm. They put together the scope of work and the design. They act as the agent that will actually solicit the bids on our behalf, advertise in the paper, send it to the select qualified groups that they know of and worked in the past. And they do, pre-bid meetings. If it's big enough, like some of these we're talking about, there's vendors will come in and walk around and want to see it in person to get a feel for it, ask more questions, ask for clarifications. They handle all the bids and they do the opening. They present the data to me. And based on that, we will know whether we can move forward or not. Most of them are okay, but sometimes you get in this current environment, you don't get well, let's just say there's 1 or 2 bids instead of 5 or 6 bids sometimes. So that was the current environment, that's what's going on because all the contractors are really busy. Workforce is hard to get, materials hard to get. So there's a kind of a shortage lately, but that's kind of how it works. Most of the smaller projects we're able to handle internally with our operating budget. But these big ones, they're too big to handle. We have to ask for some debt service. And I did put together an example to show you the debt service. But the debt is actually incurred by the city, but it's incurred on our behalf, and they pass the costs on to us each year.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Superintendent Tager.
Thank you. I'm recommending approval for the total cost of the final projects at Bangor High School: roofing, $5,122,000, electrical, $3,923,000, generator estimated at $1 million. The new debt would be a net of our capital reserve savings and the revolving loan fund.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Okay, we will have Chair Hasnan.
Yes.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes.
Member Sorg,
Yes.
Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes.
and Member Sichters.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have one more piece. And it's the future savings plan that I've designed with Superintendent Tager. We refer to certain projects that are just too big to handle with our budget. So we either have done it with our budget or bonded it, but there's a third option. We can actually put some money away into a capital reserve with the city and let it sit there until we need to withdraw it and to handle some of these projects. And I put together an example of three. I'm not asking for you today to start it, but I'm introducing the concept. Student devices, we use COVID money and replace all our student devices all at once. But all that means is 5 to 6 years from now, they're all going to age out at the same time. We have a brand new Cameron Field, brand new football, the surface, and a new track. Well, the surface of the field and the track only has a certain useful life, and they have to be replaced. All three ticket items are a little too big for our budget. So I went to the people that could determine the cost. And if you put all three together and you start putting $205,000 away every year, when these things need to be replaced, the money will already be there. So at the time when we have audited financials in a few months for the fiscal year that is ended, I will probably propose to you to start this savings plan. So in 5 or 6 years, when these things need to be replaced, we have the funding available to do so. So this is just information only.
Thank you.
Now moving on to informational items. We have supporting the college application process.
Thank you. Bangor High School school counselors will report on what they are doing to support the college application process. Come on up.
Okay. We'll wait for the technology. And do I have to turn something on here?
There's a
Where's the
button.
button? It says Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm Sharon Mayer, school counselor at Bangor High School, and Dr. Leach and I will be speaking. And we're grateful for the opportunity to speak on behalf of our coworkers, Mrs. Foley, Mr. Clement, Mr. D'Espino, Mrs. Thayer, and Mrs. Pacifici in the guidance office. Did I not turn it on? Oops.
You turned it off. It was already on.
Okay, sorry. All right. I'm not a tech person, so, but we're grateful for this opportunity because we take great pride in our work and we love working with our students. So thank you. So we are guided by the American School Counselor Association, or ASCA, that calls on us to work in 3 distinct domains, and that's academic development, personal and social development, and career development. We are also guided by standards not only from ASCA, but from organizations like CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic and Social and Emotional Learning. Speaking with you about all of this would probably take all evening, so I won't be doing that because we don't have that much time. So we're going to focus on the career development aspect of our job, and specifically the work that we do with seniors, because that's really when we are helping seniors to really come up with a concrete post-secondary plan. And we like to think of this in terms of our communication with the different groups who all work collaboratively for the benefit of the student. And that is the school staff, the guardians, and then at the center is the student, who we are trying to teach self-management skills. We think that is crucial so that they can take these skills on in life and also provide some encouragement as well. So in terms of communication with guardians, we are trying to strengthen pathways with parents and guardians. In a way, it needs to become like a habit for both of us. There need to be multiple pathways. There needs to be frequent communication, but not too frequent. So we started out the year with an initial mailing home where parents were encouraged to join the class of 2022 group on the BSD app. We also provided our contact information, which includes our email, our phone number, and a link to our online scheduler. We have Calendly, so anyone can make an appointment with us at any time if they have questions. And we share this information anytime we send out a message to guardians. We are providing weekly email communications with guardians, including upcoming events at Bangor High School, like college visits, on-the-spot admissions. We are always trying to figure out what is the latest and greatest in college admissions. And so we provide recommendations based on our professional development in that respect. We gave guardians a suggested fall timeline of activities that they should keep in mind. For example, one of the items was you start filing your FAFSA on October 1st. We gave them a link to not only the FAFSA, but also some resources to help them with that as well. We held an online interactive senior parent night. It was on YouTube Live, well attended that evening, and also had more than 100 views. We've included frequent messaging in the guidance app on the BSD app. And we've collaborated with our communications director, Ray Finney. So we're grateful for his assistance in putting some messages on social media as well. So we are also exploring creating some short videos on a variety of topics to disseminate even more information that way. Next, communications with school staff. We are coordinating with teachers for completion of college applications. So we are uploading transcripts, sending transcripts to colleges, writing lots of letters of recommendation. We collaborate with teachers to provide essay support for students. So kudos to the English department for putting together an essay help session for our students. And we also worked with teachers and administrators throughout the school year to facilitate academic support for our students. And then this next slide is our primary focus, because ASCA calls on us to spend 80% of our time in direct service. So communication with our students or support to our students is really critical. So we work with our students, began this fall with visits to advisories, where we handed out the suggested fall timeline and talked about direct communication methods with them. We held informational sessions to get students started on the Common App. There are often a lot of questions about how to get started on the Common App, so we had held some sessions on that. We provided weekly direct emails to students to share upcoming events, including on-the-spot admissions and important dates. We have been using the class of 2022 Google Classroom to disseminate information about college visits, scholarships, and general guidance-related information as well. We have developed a scholarship website where we include all of the information on scholarships that come through the guidance office in one site, so students can access that, and also some tips on how to search for scholarships on the World Wide Web. This is also bookmarked on student Chromebooks. And we have worked with mentor coordinator Julie Kimball to create a student opportunities website where students can find information on things like internships, job shadow opportunities, apprenticeship job opportunities, as well as volunteer work. This was widely sent out to parents in an email form and on the BSD app, and is also bookmarked on student accounts. But a lot of our time is spent working individually with students, and that's where Dr. Leach is going to take over.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. There it goes. It's going, it's coming. The post-secondary planning process, and actually went past it, but there was a linear line there that, from the beginning and just the starting process all the way through to a concrete plan. That linear line is actually, it's got hills and valleys. Sometimes it's got a loop-de-loop, sometimes it's got holes in it, because every individual student has different challenges, and along the discovery path, sometimes plans change, and as they have experience at Bangor High School, and they gain more insight into themselves, that's a constantly revised path. Career development with juniors, as Sharon was saying, we're very concentrated on our seniors at this moment. After the start of the new year, a lot of the attention will turn to juniors, and we will be having events such as a college and career fair, which we had pre-COVID. We had 300 plus families attend the event. We filled 2 gyms at that experience. We're hoping to fill 3 gyms with college, career, and life readiness experiences for students in the sophomore and junior year to see. We do surveys, quizzes, and again, all of these things on this list, as you can read, some students are at various phases of accomplishment with those. Some are very clearly defined, and we try to make sure that we're efficient and we're picking up students where they're at in their process. Students who are rocking it and going straight forward, we sometimes just stay out of the way and not interfere, and others that need extra guidance and support and help, spend a little extra time with them. This is the fun slide. Some successes. We after COVID, very excited to get back to the on-the-spot admissions process. And it was wildly successful. It was our best on-the-spot experience ever, not just post-COVID. We had roughly 80 students gain admission to the University of Maine, Husson, UMaine Augusta, University of Southern Maine, and Eastern Maine Community College. And this is the part of the presentation that you want moms and dads to record and go back to and play over and over again. And I would even be talking to parents of 7th and 8th graders and even lower. The single greatest thing that students can do to help pay for school is to do a good job in school. Our 80 students got nearly $2 million of merit-based financial aid. So if you go to Sam's Club and you buy 4 tires and they give you the 4 tires for the price of 3, imagine how good it feels to get 4 years of a college education for the price of 3. So kudos to the counseling staff and the entire staff at Bangor High School, and all the work that was done by so many people, letter writing, The Common App work that they did in English, all of these kinds of things really helped us to get these kids into this process. This is early in the process. Many of the application deadlines are January 1 deadlines. So to have an early on-the-spot process like this really puts the kids ahead of the game and helps in so many ways. I would also like to point out this was something that I just looked into this afternoon. I have 27 years of 2- and 4-year college attendance data. And Bangor High School has been relatively consistent for the entire 27 years. Slight upticks, slight downticks, but relatively consistent throughout the entire time. The plan and the process and the strategy that we use is risk-proof. And by that, I mean that while we've remained steady and consistent, in that same time period, our free and reduced lunch rate has doubled. So we've been able to get the same level of results with a greater level of challenge. More first-year college students, more students at risk are finding their way into post-secondary plans. So while we talk about the great successes of so many national merit scholars, so many students getting to Ivy League schools and very highly selective schools, we also have students finding their way that have lacked other types of guidance and support. And they're finding it in many places in the school, the counseling office included. In the future, last slide right here, looking for ways to be more efficient. Sharon mentioned the 80% of our time in direct service with students. We're not there. And that's one of our goals, is to get to that 80%. Having systems, using technology to be able to have better collection and maintenance of data so that we can spend less time collecting data and more time using the data effectively with students, as well as facilitating communication with yourselves and with the community and parents and the students themselves. With that done, and turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Any questions? I saw Caroline's hand first. Go ahead.
Uh-oh, this is the tough question.
Yes.
So you spoke a lot about how you did say that you're concentrating on seniors, but do you see like a plan in the future to help students in other classes of graduation to find like scholarship opportunities throughout the high school career? Because I know some are not just for seniors, and I think getting a head start on that would help a lot of students.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. And one of the things that I think we've learned through our COVID experience is how to use the technology tools to be able to get those things out to you efficiently. So the scholarship page and things like that. Advisory is another great tool that we'll be able to use that's built into the schedule. So we're not relying upon, in the old days, like 5 years ago, we had a physical binder with paper copies of those things in it. And that was always a challenge to do exactly what you're talking about. So again, using the technology that we have to be able to do that as quickly as possible. And you're right. I mean, that is something that has to get out. Now there's scholarships and financial opportunities that happen throughout the year for underclassmen. And juniors will have an opportunity to see some of those scholarships come along in the spring.
Thank you.
Yep.
I saw Member Mundell.
Yeah, thank you both for that information. I will say that as a parent of a high school student, I've been seeing a lot of information coming out from you all, and it's been really great. I've really appreciated it. The scholarship website is fantastic, and the opportunities website, I just got a glance at it the other day, and I look forward to looking at that more. So really great resources and great work, and thank you for doing that. A couple of questions. I noticed that there's really not much talk about standardized test prep at Bangor High. And I know, that talk is probably dealing with a certain level of student that might, it might not apply to every student. But I wonder, because of the National Merit Scholarship, and maybe I just don't know enough about that program.
Mhm.
Is it worth like doing some test prep classes or referring kids to resources where they can practice? What's your take on that?
The short answer to the long question. First of all, I think Bangor High School does a really good job because we're one of very, very, very few schools that actually fund
Yeah.
3 years of the PSAT. So all of our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors will sit for the PSAT 3 times. The PSAT rewrite 6 or 7 years ago, 8 years ago, put the PSAT in alignment with the SAT. So the test looks, behaves, acts. It is very much a scrimmage, if you will, a practice for that. So they sit for 3 live tests in that process. The junior year test is the Nmsqt, National Merit Test. And we did have 3 more recipients for that this year as well. And this junior class knocked it out of the park. They did exceptionally well on the PSAT, excuse me. There are a multitude of free resources, and something like a course or a class or an after-school activity would help improve access to those resources for sure. But prepping for the PSAT or the SAT, you look at it in 2 avenues. One is preparing for the content. The teachers in the classroom is the single best preparation for the test. So that is something that we would lean quite heavily on. The other one is just practicing for game day, right? The test day, and knowing how to time yourself and use your time wisely and actually get some practice with some of the questions. And the College Board website has a lot of resources. And to save printer ink at home, we print out volumes of, because I always prefer that students practice on paper, because that's how you take the test is on paper. And little things like that go a long way to have test prep. Yeah, but the very fact that we offer students the opportunity to take the test 3 times is the single best thing you could do for test prep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't realize that the PSAT aligns now so closely with the SAT that you consider that test prep for the SAT.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Yep.
Okay, good to know.
Yep.
One last question. I have friends in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is a very prosperous area. They have I mean, this is like apples and oranges, I realize, but they have they work with a contractor called Naviance, I think, something like that. I think there are several of those. Have we considered working with that to kind of help? I mean, my understanding is it kind of helps parents look at data from different schools and what might be a good match for your kid. Is there any talk of using that, or is it just too expensive?
That is an awesome question. Because we have actually already begun the process of reviewing a product, not Naviance, but one that has all of the same operational systems for communications with parents, with teachers, with counselors, that interfaces with Common App, that can interface with our own data systems, and that can do some of the things that we talked about in our presentation. It's a product called Xello, Xello. It does basically the same thing that Naviance does at half the price. And we're very excited to pilot that. Hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Very hopeful to pilot that and to see how it goes. And we've had several meetings with their folks, with IT, with administration, with teachers, and it looks extremely promising. So
That's
that is
great.
something that's on the horizon, hopefully. Yep.
Great, exciting. Thank you.
And by the way, Montgomery County, Maryland was one of the 6 schools that Bangor High School was also one of the 6 schools that helped consult with the rewrite of the SAT.
Oh,
So yeah, we're familiar with them.
yeah, I'm an alum there, so.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I believe Member Surratt was next.
Thank you. And thank you both for that report. My questions were about first generation students going into college. and I imagine you don't have the exact data right at your fingertips, but if you had to ballpark it, how many students do you think would be considered first gen college students?
That's a question I would probably want to get back to you before I spoke out of turn. I'm not 100%, so it would be anecdotal.
Yeah.
From how we know through our relationships with the students. But it's something we could certainly try to measure with our current class if you wanted to have harder data.
Well, I think that'd be great. And the other question I'm wondering about is, and it could be broadly to any graduating Bangor High School student that goes on to post-secondary school, but particularly I'm thinking about the first gen students.
Mhm.
Do you reach out to them? Are there ways you can reach out to them after that first semester that they're out there in college and just check in? How are things going? Maybe get some information, some data from them about, what were you really well prepared for? What
Mhm.
maybe do you wish you could have been a little more
Yeah.
prepared for, particularly those first gen students?
Well, if you can talk with Member Mundell, because the Zello product would allow us to do that.
Oh, cool. Yeah. It
Yeah.
sounds like it'd be a strong data collecting
Yeah.
tool.
Yes, it would. Yep.
So oftentimes we are connecting students like that to programs at the college level. So there are a variety of programs to support students. So while we're not collecting that data, we're making sure that they have that support and they can know that, can get that.
And do they get targeted? Do they get sort of put into a bucket of we know these are first gen, they do not have parents that did post-secondary school or guardians, caregivers?
I mean, I would say it's hard to tell, so we don't readily have that information available. So certainly we've done a couple of surveys with our students. So we're trying to get that information, from students if they have questions about the process and if they're well-versed in it, whether they're not. So we're surveying students to get kind of that information and what their needs are.
Right.
We're not specifically asking that question, but certainly, we're trying to serve all students and making sure that they have their needs met.
Thank you.
The other thing I would add to that is we know the number of students that request fee waivers for their applications. And on the Common App and on most any generic college application, they specifically ask for information regarding parents. So a lot of times that information actually kind of bypasses us because the student self-reports it to the universities, to the application. So the university probably would have more accurate information, but it's something we could certainly start to mine moving forward if we want hard and fast data on that.
Would it be an appropriate question just to ask? And you mentioned working with individual students, when you sit down with them, say, can you tell me a little bit about your parents, your guardians, caregivers experience with college?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a conversation we have often. And I'm proud to say at the recent Eastern Maine Community College on the spot, there were a few first gen college students who got admission. So we're happy. So we have those individual conversations with them, certainly.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Yep.
And if I may just jump in really quick, just to piggyback on this, what about like students who have kind of the same way, parents who are immigrants and they're, I've heard a lot about this, like the parents feel so lost in the process and their kids often do too, because again, their parents aren't there to direct them. And high school parents, we know that sometimes the kids need to be pushed along a little bit. They don't have that support. So in terms of language barriers, cultural barriers, do you address those as well? And is there like a mediator or someone who's there to help? Maybe Laura Whitman, I don't know.
Yeah, and yes, and I would also say too that the universities have international student admissions counselors.
Okay.
And oftentimes they're a great resource that I've reached out and other counselors have reached out to, even though they're not technically applying as an international student, they have international student characteristics. that those folks are really helpful at connecting the resources.
Excellent.
And I think that's really where the individual meetings are happening. You know, if we're seeing that a student hasn't made their plan yet, then we're going to meet with them individually and see what those needs are and meet those needs.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. Remember Luciana was next. Oh, yes.
Also, I just wanted to add that that's where sometimes the letter of recommendation can really be helpful because, you know, college admissions officers, you know, they can read the application. They know which clubs the student has been in. We don't have to repeat all that information. But I find the letter is where you can give that subtle information sometimes
And context.
Yes.
you
to
know,
other
for-
help the student might need and other connections that need to be made for the students.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And member Luciano?
So I just wanted to know, what is the guidance department doing to sort of dovetail into what Tim was saying for your first generation students starting in 9th grade? Because by the time they get to be a senior, it's too late.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
So obviously 9th grade is kind of a little late too, but especially if you haven't had a parent or older sibling who's gone through the process, you don't know it's too late at 9th grade. So
Right.
what are we doing to make sure that
I
to
mean,
reach that group?
I've heard data that
Mhm.
that students decide in 4th grade
Mhm.
whether or not they're college bound.
Yes.
So, you know, it starts way before then.
Yes.
So, but absolutely, you know,
Mhm.
tonight we focused on our work with seniors because it is
Right,
just
right.
so, you know,
Yes.
so intense. So, but certainly we're talking about these kinds of things starting in 9th grade.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Member Sixers?
So I'd like to dovetail on what Member Mundell said. This is just fabulous. This is amazing. As you know, I mean, this is my 3rd kid in the high school, and this is, I was very, very lost the first time around, and the senior parent night was incredible, and being able to go to the gym and all of the colleges that were there. And it actually, I mean, my son is at one of those colleges that we had never even heard of. So that is really incredible. The question I have is, I know when my oldest was a senior, because, you know, last year, everything's, you know, COVID. When my oldest was a senior, the beginning of his senior year, there was sort of this senior parent night where it was sort of, okay, this is how the process works. And it seems like that is going to happen in the spring semester.
We did do the senior parent night this year. It was on YouTube Live.
Okay,
Yeah, she spoke about it earlier in that was the senior parent.
that was the senior, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Because I know, like, so my daughter's a junior now,
Mhm.
and I mean, the only thing I would ask is that you perhaps start that a little earlier, or even tell people to go to it.
Yeah.
Because we missed taking our oldest to college tours because we didn't start that until he was already a senior, because we didn't know.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, my daughter's already been doing that for a while. So yeah, so that would be my, like,
Yeah.
send that out to junior parents.
I agree. And that's why Mrs. Foley and Mr. Daraspino, they're the junior counselors this year, have been doing a great job. They've come up with a junior timeline for the spring and into the summer of activities that they should start thinking about
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, and it's all, so this is just fabulous. Thank you so much for doing this. And I think this will also be really great for our recruitment
Yeah.
of all of those kids who should be coming to Bangor High, because this is yet another reason why we're so awesome. So, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Member Mundell?
Yeah, one more quick question. I work in my private practice with a bunch of college students, and what I'm finding, I have several with ADHD or other types of learning disabilities.
Mhm.
They did fine. They not Bangor students, but they did fine in high school. But once they're in college, they're really struggling with the switch from a very structured schedule to like having so much free time and really struggling with that. So I'm wondering if you all do anything working with that population, kids with 504 plans,
Yep.
to help them with that transition.
Yep, absolutely. Exit 504s, very much like, you know, kind of a scaled down version of an exit IEP. That's the 504 where we like to try to have the student take a little more command of scheduling the meeting, guiding the conversation in the meeting, because in college, those plans become the responsibility of the student to self-advocate. And so that's why we feel that the CASEL standards, the social emotional learning standards, are really important to incorporate, because while we can focus on a lot on academic skills, if a student experiences difficulty or failure in college, it's not necessarily going to be because of their academic skills. It's going to be the other skills. So, and making sure that they know, first of all, how to connect with student support services when they do get onto campus. And maybe even making that initial call with them so that they
Yeah.
can so that they know where to go when they get there.
And we've done that. We've made that connection, have a Zoom meeting with the
Mhm.
person at the college so that they have that connection already. And we write the 504 plan with college in mind. So, because that will be a guide, the college doesn't have to follow it exactly, but it is a guide for them. So.
Okay. Any last questions? No? Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. Thank you. Okay, so on to report of resignations.
Thank you. I'm reporting the following resignations. Lila Johnson, speech language pathologist, William S. Cohen School. Tammy Wyman, special education teacher, William S. Cohen School. Lisa Buck, a softball coach, James F. Dowdy School. Casey Gray, softball coach, James F. Dowdy School. Chris Bombardier, a baseball coach, James F. Dowdy School. Danielle Stockinger, board certified behavioral analyst, district-wide. Sarah Freeman, assistant varsity softball coach, Bangor High School.
Thank you. Moving on to business action items. First, we have action items and the minutes for our regular meeting of November 17th, 2021.
I'm recommending approval of the draft minutes of the November 17th, 2021 regular school committee meeting.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Okay, and roll call vote, please.
Yes, Chair Hasnan,
Yes.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes.
Member Sorg,
Abstain, I was not available.
thank you. Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes.
Member Sichters,
Yes.
passes 6-0.
Thank you. And then now certification of employment of the superintendent of schools.
Title 20A MSRSA Section 10512 requires the school committee certify employment of a superintendent each December for the following school year. All main school units are required by law to have a superintendent. The Bangor School Committee must vote to authorize the chair to complete the certification of employment form for the next school year, 2022-2023.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, and
I should do the roll call. No, I read it.
that's right.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, and roll call vote, please.
Okay, Chair Hasnan,
Yes.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes.
Member Sorg,
Yes.
Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes.
and Member Sichters.
Enthusiastic, yes.
Oh, thank you. Passes 7-0.
Thank you. Financial report, we have October financial report.
I'm recommending approval of the October financial report.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All righty, roll call vote, please.
Chair Hasnan,
Yes.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes.
Member Sorg,
Yes.
Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes.
and Member Sichters.
Yes.
7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. On to personnel, we have extra duty assignments.
I'm recommending committee approval of the following extra duty assignment for school year 2021-2022. Rebecca Williams, first year JV cheering coach, Bangor High School.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Chair Hasnan,
Yes.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes.
Member Sorg,
Yes.
Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes.
Member Sichters.
Yes.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. And now we have donations and Member Sprague will share those.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Abraham Lincoln School from Lauren and Tim Surratt, a cash donation to support students having a total dollar value of $100. Thank you, Tim. To Abraham Lincoln School from Charleston Church, winter jackets and hats having a total dollar value of $600. To 14th Street School from Charleston Church, winter jackets and snow pants having a total dollar value of $470. To 14th Street School from Hannaford Help Schools, a cash donation to support students having a total dollar value of $240. To Fruit Street School from Charleston Church, winter jackets having a total value of $1,575. To William S. Cohen School from Mrs. Carolyn Vose in the name of Dr. Sarah Hentkes. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that right. Cash donation to support students and families during the holidays, having a total dollar value of $100. To William S. Cohen School from Marlene and Frank Susi, a cash donation to support students during the holidays, having a total value of $250. To James F. Dowdy School from the Quinn Agency, Buffy Quinn, a cash donation for Dowdy Cheering, having a total dollar value of $200. To James F. Dowdy School from Julie Quinn, a cash donation for Dowdy Cheering, having a total dollar value of $200. And to all 11 Bangor schools from Susan Sorg, a cash donation in the amount of $200 per school to support students, having a total dollar value of $2,200. Special gratitude to member Sorg. Thank you very much for your generosity. And to everyone on the list. That's quite a list and quite a lot of support for our students. So I will enthusiastically, if you need a motion, I suppose we don't need a motion to accept.
We do.
We
We do. I suppose we do. I should have stuck with my gut on that. Enthusiastically, I'll move to accept these donations.
Second.
All righty. Any questions? Yes, member Sichters.
Can you explain how Superintendent Tager, so somebody makes a donation to the school to support students. What then happens? I mean, is money dispersed to students via the guidance counselor? Like how does that
It goes
process?
directly to the schools. And what happens is we recognize this very generously at our meeting, which is live streamed. And we also send everybody a thank you to from us as well. But yes, it goes directly to the schools for whatever the purpose is. So it could go to different things depending on what they asked it to be for, but guidance would be involved in the principals.
Excellent. That's just fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. So roll call vote, please.
Chair Hassanen,
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes, thank you.
Member Sorg,
Yes.
Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes, with thanks.
and Member Sichters.
Yes, thank you so very, very much for your support of our students.
Thank you all. 7-0.
Okay, moving on to introduction items. We have a first reading of a policy, and it is policy JLA, Local Wellness Program.
I'm recommending first reading of a revised policy JLA Local Wellness Program.
And
So moved.
do we need a motion on
We
this?
do.
We do, because it's a first
First
reading.
Yep.
So
Okay.
moved.
Can I get a second? Thank you. Any questions or comments on this reading? Member Sprague.
Thank you. I certainly support. I would love to have at a future meeting at some point or a workshop, more discussion with our school lunch folks, just to learn more about
Sure.
the process of matching what we're serving in the school with the nutrition standards. It's just a particular interest of mine. And I should disclose in saying this that I'm on the board of Good Shepherd Food Bank that does a lot of work to get Maine produce into our school meal program. And I would love to just talk at some point about ways we can get more Maine-based produce into our schools. I bring up being on Good Shepherd and that there's infrastructure there that school districts tap into. I don't think there's any fiduciary or financial connection, but only to acknowledge that I know a bit about this through that board service work. And I think there's potential for us to continue to grow our relationship around getting Maine-based produce into our school lunches and meals and breakfasts as well. So love to learn more about our program.
And could we get an update on that, Superintendent Tager? Maybe like just a
Yes, would
brief
you?
presentation?
Yeah, I think he's asked for a presentation. If that's what you would like as chair,
Yes,
we can do
yes,
that. Yep.
please.
We'll make that happen.
Because since I've been on the board, I don't remember, or I don't recall hearing or learning more. So this is a great idea.
We can do that.
Excellent. Okay. And
We do a roll call, I think, on that.
yes, we'll have, oh, any other, sorry, member Surratt.
I was curious, do we have any flexibility on adding wording to this, or is this something that's mandated?
We can't add wording to that, but if there's some other ideas that you or other committee members have when we do our talk at the end with board comments, we can probably come up with another idea, but this is policy. Did you want to address this at all, Kathy, or you think we're good? This is just a revisement in the policy, and I think you probably have an interest in wellness, and there's some other suggestions we could make, but
Well,
outside of this.
I do have some, I have just some thoughts specific to this policy. I'm just, and I know they're mandated and there isn't a lot of flexibility, but I was just curious. Maybe it doesn't have to be in the document, but can this committee, this wellness committee, also look at something like sleep or infrastructure considerations around air quality or lighting, other things that impact students physiologically, that impacts their ability to succeed academically? I know this one's pretty laser focused on physical activity, nutrition, water.
It is. yeah.
You see where I'm going with that?
I do. Do you want to go first? Go ahead. But I do see where you're going, and I know that as committee members, you can suggest other committee work, but I think this is pretty much what it is. I guess it's not complicated. I think it's what you see is kind of what you get on this one. Is there, do you feel differently, Kathy? or-
Nope, I do not. This was really based around a law that had a non-compete clause with a hot lunch program as well as healthy snacks. And so that's why the revision was made to reference the law so that you could see that it was actually based upon legislation that went through. I think something that you're asking for would be something in addition to, it wouldn't be tacked on to this because it really wouldn't fit with, like sleep wouldn't fit with a non-compete of hot lunch programming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It makes good sense.
Okay, you're not the first person to ask the question. So it's been a popular question, so.
And I'm wondering if we can revisit this at the end and talk about what that would look like if we would like to expand a little bit more or have another
Another
committee,
yeah.
a separate committee.
Yep.
Yep. Member Mundell, did you want?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Kathy and I talked last week, I guess it was, about this situation. And she gave me lots of good thoughts, and I will bring it up at the end of the meeting because I have some thoughts about having a different advisory committee that would address some of the other things that we're concerned about. So, yeah. But thank you for that, Kathy.
Thanks.
Any other questions regarding this specific policy? No. Okay.
So we should do a roll call on
Roll
that.
call vote now. Thank you.
Okay, Chair Hosnan,
Yes.
Member Luciano,
Yes.
Member Mendel,
Yes.
Member Sorg.
Yes, and with that, I'm going to have to leave you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Member Sprague,
Yes.
Member Surratt,
Yes.
and Member Sichters.
Yes.
Passes 7-0 first reading.
Okay, and let's move on to committee updates. But first, any comments or questions from the committee? Member Sichters.
I was just wondering if there's been an update on the high school schedule for next year. I've heard that there's some rumors flowing about, and there's been a lot of discussion back and forth.
Do you want to address that? Yeah.
Butler.
Sorry, Paul.
Well, while he's coming up, I just wanted to kind of tie the loop to on, Member Mundell mentioned Naviance, and we're looking at Zello. And I want to thank the guidance department. I see we still have one here for their work on that. And I want to tell you, I want to give some credit to Principal Butler in our discussions with them. We want to make sure it's something that we are happy with before we go forward. So he was able to convince them into a pilot at a very good price. And what we're going to do is find out we're going to use 4 different grade level, I think, advisory groups, and correct me if I'm wrong. So 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. and have students, teachers, and parents participate to see if we like this product. But a lot of what their presentation was is kind of having the data and the resources. And several of you mentioned tracking what students are doing. Are they the first graduate? And I want to address that too. Member Luciano, you brought that up, and so did Member Surratt. We have hired a graduation coach. She's working with seniors, but we're working backwards. And I know one of the counselors mentioned fourth grade, but we're kind of working backwards on that, which is a funny way to go, but it's the best way to start, in my opinion. Okay, go ahead if you want to address the.
Yeah,
where
sure.
we are with
So
the
yeah,
schedule.
no question, the most important resource you have beyond your, in terms of resources, non-people, of course, is your time. And we spent a ton of time, launched it this fall at studying the schedule. And this is a great opportunity to publicly dispel the myth that I'm a champion of the 4x4 semester block schedule. It was a schedule of necessity. It was a schedule that allowed us to practice safety and prevention. And I'll lay claim to sticking to it for another year, because we just got to a point, if you're exhausted by the end of the year and you've put a lot of time and effort into building a schedule. And it's a myth if anybody suggests that you can just change a schedule so late in the year and be ready to open the doors in the fall. So did commit to it late, but we had committed even last year to spending this year through broad conversation. What is the best use of time, the best arrangement of the school day that maximizes the outcomes we want to get to. So we've had there'll be more of this to follow, I'm sure, but we've had a committee in place, Master Schedule Committee, since this fall, met 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 100 times, but 6 or 8 core meetings. It was the most populated and most invigorated discussion that I've been involved with at the high school. It's been a lot of great ones, a lot of deep ones, but it was a broad discussion because a lot of my work comes with annexing the talents and skills of department heads and then on to teachers. It was a time when teacher voices from across the departments came to the meetings, represented different ideas. And essentially what it's come down to is winnowing into a couple of leading models, an alternating block and some version of a modified 8-period day that includes elements of block, that includes both of them. They have a lot of things in common, but the primary distinguisher is the degree to which you commit to block or seeing students every day or seeing students every day. And we're not ready to make any announcement yet. We, as those two leading sort of schedule models conceptually emerged, developed videos that we thought would be helpful in the next round of decision-making process. I've had conversations, I would say, with is most represented down to the individual teacher as can be had. And I'm not going to reveal where we're going because we haven't quite fully settled yet, but after all that work, I'm here to tell you that it's 51-49 in terms of preference. And guess what? It started out 51-49 or 49-51. And what we have said, though, after a long process, we've gotten agreement that no matter where we go, everybody's behind the direction that we go with the schedule. And there won't be a question that hasn't been asked. There may be some that aren't fully answered, but we'll have a good framework. And I think through another round of conversation with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, we'll get to the schedule that we think is best for another year. And I might announce that at the next committee meeting.
Yeah, I
fully.
think where we are is, and you're exactly right. There were 9 meetings that were had at the high school about this topic. There's student feedback, teachers, I mean, everybody participated in this. And there are 2 videos that were very interesting that Kathy and I have been able to look at. And our hope is kind of like a school committee almost. Nobody ever gets exactly what they want, but at the end of the day, we're a team. And so that's kind of the same way that we're hoping this will work too, with department heads and then all the teachers over there. But what we would tell you is that hopefully the January 12th meeting, which is our next one, we'll be able to provide you a summary, and we hope to be able to inform faculty and staff sometime in the next week or so, hopefully before we go into breaks. So that's kind of the timeline. Thank you for sharing what you did. It's kind of a well-kept secret and not decided yet.
It's more convincing to do.
It's what?
I guess it's more convincing to do. Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Member Surratt?
Yes, I just had a comment. I wanted to go back to the a comment on the certification of employment of the superintendent of schools. I just wanted to say, Superintendent Tager, I really want to just thank you for your leadership over the last 6 months, and I really want to commend you on your visibility. It's just been remarkable to me how many events you've attended that I've seen you at, and that folks have mentioned to me that you were at. So you're really making great inroads with the community, and it's appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's a labor of love. And one thing I'm committed to do is go to the schools 1 day a week. And I would like to take you all as a committee. So Lori's going to send you some dates if she hasn't already, that if you can get free, we'll do a tour of all the schools. I think that's important for you to see where the action's at and the good work that our principals and teachers do. And I think that says a lot for our principals and our nurses in particular, and our faculty and staff. We have more cases this year than we had a year ago, and we're maintaining in-person learning. So we're fighting to do that because it's right for students. So thank you all for your support.
Yeah. And I have to agree with Member Surratt. I have a 9-year-old who gets so excited to see Superintendent Tager comes home and he saw the celebrity. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so let's move on to, and I'm not sure what committee appointments, is that accidentally in there? Committee appointments number 2?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good,
Okay,
good
so
question.
scratch that out.
I'll check on that.
Yeah, I was confused with that one. Representatives reports. Do we have any updates, Member Surratt?
Yes, I attended a training meeting for a Southern Penobscot Regional Program for children with exceptionality. So it's a training for new members of the committee. And even though I was in this position 2 years ago, I thought it would be good to go anyway. So I did. It was on Thursday, December 9th, and I got a great tour of the Bangor Regional Program by Director Mayo. That was really informative and helpful. Some of the things we talked about, there's roughly 47 students that are at the Bangor Regional Program. I thought this was remarkable and really wonderful. The adult to student ratio at the Bangor Regional Program is 1 adult to 2 students, and typically classrooms at Bangor Regional Program have 6 students with 1 full-time certified teacher and 2 educational technicians. I hope I'm getting that all right, and please let me know if I'm not. But it's a wonderful program. I'm proud that Bangor is an important part of Spruce, and that's all.
Thank you. Other members, member sectors?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the committee for voting unanimously for the teacher contract. It was a lot of work on behalf of a lot of people in this room and the teachers. And I think it was a contract that came about to really honor sort of the work that the teachers not only did for our children during COVID, which was just tremendous, but to be mindful that, it's been a tough year for everybody. I also want to let the committee know that we have also completed the ed tech negotiations, and that ended favorably. We're waiting on a vote for that one, and we start the next one tomorrow. So I doubt very much we'll be finished by the 12th, but I think it's just all good. So if anybody has any questions at any point, Sue Sorg and member Mundell was also at the last one. So please feel free to reach out to us.
And I thank member sectors for remaining on that committee. Okay, any other updates? Member Luciano?
So I had some questions about the Dropout Prevention Committee. I was just curious about, do we have any information on when that annual meeting takes place and what is involved in that? Is this a a document or is this a committee? Does anyone know?
Excellent question. Superintendent Tager.
Kathy, any comments on that?
No one? Okay, good. I don't feel bad asking now. Is there any way that, if you could just let me know sort of what the parameters are? I've definitely got about 50 ideas of things that could be functional here. So I'd love to know if we can enact some of those or at least talk about them.
I can dig into that and get back with you.
That would be great. Thank you.
And I'm wondering if member Luciano can kind of spearhead some of, she's got wonderful ideas and she's reached out to me with so many ideas. So if she
I'm
could-
sorry. I just really like to share my ideas.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I will dig into that and get back with you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And member Sichters.
In the past, so I was on that committee one year and it's in the fall. It's in
Okay.
September.
Okay.
So you would have just missed it.
Yep.
But as Dr. Harris Medberg said, a second committee meeting, and I don't know when that one is.
I can wait. I can wait 10 months. I can wait this out.
Any other reports? And a quick report about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. That's the one that I co-chair with our Affirmative Action Officer, Dana Carver-Byaller. Our John Hopkins 360 Equity Audit results have come out. So one of our subgroups actually will review those results and then they will share with us as a school committee. So Superintendent Tager, do you have other
Yeah, I think what
information?
we're going to do is supply the summary to that subgroup to kind of review, and then they'll share with you all that I'll get each of you a copy of the summary as well at our next meeting. So I'll make sure I bring that.
And we have many community members and subject matter experts on our committee. So it's going really, really well. I couldn't be more pleased with everything that we're doing right now. So, and member Mandel is with me on that committee. Do you have anything else to share?
No, I'll just say briefly that I'm on the equity audit subcommittee, and we're like looking at ways that we can sort of assess where we are with DEI on a system level. And there are a lot of ideas in that room that are really great, but our first step is to look at the 360 data and kind of see where we are with that, and then make a plan from there.
Member Surratt.
Are there ways to get feedback from teachers, from staff, from faculty related to those ideas?
I can take that one. Absolutely. What we sat with John Hopkins and they kind of reviewed the information. And we had a 37% response rate, which was the second highest in the state. But I would tell you that our rate of teacher response and student response was over 60%. So we have some very good information to take a look at. I think, Paul, do I have my numbers right, or is it a little even higher with the teachers?
It was 90%.
90 for teachers and 60 for students.
That's what we
Yeah.
shared with
And we
these
were
slides.
we were a bit concerned about where those numbers fell, and I guess not surprised after being introduced to the instrument and the folks who designed it and interpret it that the 90% teacher completion rate was outlier high, as was the 62%. I think that might have been the number that was second most
Students, yeah.
student responses.
And the parent one was really low.
Yeah, and it's traditionally low.
Yes and no. The parent one, I think, was around 10 or 12%,
11%, yeah.
but it was 132 respondents. So you still have to take that information and value it. But I would tell you that the students and the teachers, it was so high. And the beginning of that survey, it says this is not mandatory. You don't have to do this. So we were very pleased that the majority of them did. And with parents, it wasn't from a lack of trying. We sent out a lot of different ways for them to do it, but we 132 total. I think it was 10%. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I was interested too, because it was a whole state of Maine of those that participated. And she was complimentary that we had the second highest amount of respondents. So I think it's going to be good information.
Thank you. So let's move on to student committee member updates. Caroline.
Thank you, everyone. So some things that have been happening at the high school. Last Tuesday was December 7th, which was Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. And a lot of students from JROTC and the band went down to a parade and performed there so they could represent the high school and remember that day. In addition, a couple students went to the Holocaust exhibit at the Bangor Public Library. I was on that field trip and it was a very good experience. It opened a lot of conversation. So that was very good. Winter sports has started. There's ice hockey, basketball, the swim team, winter cheering, and indoor track. Those are all going strong. And also, student ambassador training began this week, which is for middle schools. So the high school students volunteer to act as guides to give middle school students some guidance as they are transitioning to high school. They'll help with step up day and things like that. And they will be able to help students transition for their future at Bangor High School.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Caroline. Member Surratt.
Yeah, Carolyn's comments just jogged my memory that I had an opportunity to, and I know other school committee members were there as well, and certainly they could speak to it if they want to as well, to the Holocaust exhibit at Bangor Public Library. And what an incredible learning experience. And one of the things I was so pleased when I was there, I spoke to Lori Patterson, the librarian at JFDS, and she mentioned that all JFDS students are going to have an opportunity to go to the Holocaust exhibit. So that's just wonderful. Thank you.
I want to mention the same with William S. Cohen. They are all going too. So that's a big deal.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any reports? Gee. No reports. Okay, so moving on to information items, we have some important dates coming up. Wednesday, December 22nd, 2021 is Bangor Day. Wednesday, January 12th, 2022 is our regular meeting, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. Wednesday, January 22nd, 2022, another regular meeting, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. And Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, regular meeting, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. And any questions or last thoughts, comments from the committee? Member Mandel's hand went right up.
Yeah, you all know what I'm going to talk about. So I would like to propose the creation of an advisory committee under policy, I think it's BCF, an advisory committee on mental health and wellness. And it doesn't have to be called that, but I just am calling it that for convenience. Just a little bit of context for that. I think we all remember Dr. Rogers gave us a really sobering update on the rise in our kids, especially in the elementary school, of opiate addicted parents. And he said, you need to plan for the influx of these kids in our schools and the needs that they're going to have. So I looked up a little bit of data, and the Maine Integrated Youth Health Survey is a survey given to Maine youth all over the state. Bangor does not presently participate, but there are many schools in Penobscot County that participate. So I want to share some of that data because it is local. In Penobscot County, and this is 2019 data, so this is even pre-pandemic, and we know that everything's gotten worse since the pandemic. So 32% of youth reported living with someone with a drug or alcohol problem. Again, this is in Penobscot County. So we don't have numbers specific to Bangor, but we can assume that our numbers are quite high as well. According to the Journal of the American Medical Association, in a 2019 study, they looked at every state. And in Maine, 1 in 4 children in Maine have at least one mental health disorder. This is the highest rate in the country. Number 1, the national rate is 1 in 6. And only about half of these folks, these young people in Maine, are getting treatment. And this was pre-pandemic. In Penobscot County, 1/3 of students reported feeling sad or hopeless in the past 12 months. And hopelessness and sadness are one symptom of depression. I think that was in the survey as an indicator of depression. So that's 1/3 of students. Only 25% of these students got help from an adult, and only 3% got help from school staff. So that's a statistic that concerns me. 16% of Penobscot County students considered attempting suicide in the past 12 months. Again, all this is pre-COVID. And Dr. Rogers mentioned that we currently have 2 contracted psychologists that I think add up to like 1 FTE maybe. And he recommended that we have 4 to deal with the influx of issues coming in. So I know we have a really hardworking staff working on these issues already, but I think we might have a lot of resources in the community that we can tap into, people who have a lot of expertise in this area. So I'm thinking of a committee that would, I mean, the structure could be determined, but I'm just thinking, obviously, involving the director of pupil services, subject matter experts in social emotional learning and mental health, the guidance counselor, social workers, psychologists, nurses, and outside agencies like NAMI, Acadia, PCHC, and kind of with the purpose, and obviously we can talk about this, but my idea is kind of with the purpose of taking inventory as far as, what are the resources that we have? Where are the gaps? Do we have staffing gaps? Do we have training gaps? Do we have gaps in community partnerships? That kind of thing. And then also kind of thinking about what data points we should look at to see how we're doing over time. So that's an idea I wanted to propose. And
Any thoughts from school committee members on this? I know Member Surratt, you had some ideas about this as well. I know Member Luciano, I know Member Sorg were also interested in something similar. Sure.
Yes, no, I'm definitely supportive of this. I think it's important. I think the COVID-19 crisis is going to cast a long shadow on students' mental health, and we have the data. And I really like the idea of an advisory committee that can also bring in folks from outside and bring in their expertise. So I'm fully supportive.
Yeah. And I am too. I love the idea of an advisory committee similar to that of the DEI, and having community members serve as SMEs, subject matter experts. That's something that we've used for the DEI committee, and it's been highly successful so far. So as chair, I would be completely supportive of this as well. Member Sixers?
Yes, I'm also supportive. One thing that I also would be really interested in, perhaps if this is something that the committee could look at when we do this, is, Bangor is a regional service center. This is not going to decrease. This is only going to increase. And it's going to become increasingly more difficult and more expensive for us to bear this cost. And I know just recently I was in a space where one of our United States Senators representatives was saying, please write us letters. We want to hear from our constituents. We want to know where we can be helpful. And there are not a lot of people who write letters. So for every single parent who has a child who needs a little bit of an extra boost, this is a fairly easy thing to do, to say, please send our state money that can help to mitigate some of these issues. Because I know when we had the doctor here and he said he's been trying to hire for this, maybe it's a money thing. if we can get some money from the federal government that says, for these communities that are having a difficult time hiring, maybe we can get some good people. So it would be one thing that I think we can look at. And I would also encourage everybody because we're gonna need a lot of support to take care of these students and to take care of the teachers and the support people who are helping these children. So thanks.
Thank you. Other comments regarding this, Member Sprague?
Just to lend a word of support, I think all of us up here have expressed the interest because it's so evident that the need is there. And I appreciate you bringing the idea forward, and I'd be happy to have something like that occur and have it. We all hear it from people in the community. We see it in people and our own families and friends and neighbors, and it's one of the most important issues we face.
So Superintendent Tager, where do we go from here? Can we vote on this at the next meeting?
Yeah, I think we could. If you want to maybe come put some of your ideas together, we'll talk a little bit more next meeting and formulate our committee. So maybe I do like what the chair said as far as DEI. We have some real experts, on that topic, and I think we can do the same on this. And I do want to say too, with the health clinic opening up at the high school, which we're in the process of, they're still hiring folks. This is a pretty good parallel to as an advisory group. And you mentioned the screening, and I forget what was the name of it, where a lot of the schools were doing.
The main integrated youth health survey.
Principal and Butler and I have been working with the group on opening the clinic, and that's one of the things that we are going to do. Any student that's going to receive assistance there is going to do the screening too. So we are moving in that direction too. I wanted you to be aware of that. It's part of the grant, I believe.
And can we go ahead and get Member Mundell to spearhead this committee since it was her idea?
You're the chair. Yeah.
All righty. So
I know that's your passion. So if you want to maybe put together a little bit of just a little bit more of an organization for us next meeting, and I'll put it on the agenda. We
Okay.
can officially make it happen.
Sure. And
Okay.
can I just add one statement? I know that there's a sentiment among some folks that schools are for education, and we should focus on education. But I think we all know now that, a lot of kids are coming to school, they're not ready to learn. And we have to help them in this area. And yes, it's a whole community-wide problem. The community is really struggling with this. I mean, I get calls every day in my practice from parents whose kids I can't see, and they've tried everything and they're desperate. And so I know, really theoretically, maybe the community should be responsible for this problem, but we all have to step up. So.
agreed. And I think it'll be a tough decision because we could only have 2 school committee members on there.
Yep.
So we'll have to discuss who. I know there are 3 more, I think, committee members who expressed interest in being on this committee. So we'll discuss it amongst ourselves. Okay.
If you want to maybe think about what you want to entitle it to, and I'll add it to the agenda.
Okay, excellent. Other comments, questions? I have a question. Anybody else? No. So I would like to ask Superintendent Tager how pool testing is going. I'd love to get an update on that.
Thank you. It's, across the state with the surge, certainly getting things done quickly and couriers to move. It's all happening pretty good for us still. We've had some little slow ups from time to time, but ultimately it's going pretty good. I thank you for asking that. The one thing I do want to mention to you all tonight as school committee members is that I talked with our principals, and I am recommending, listen to the word carefully, that pool testing for all unvaccinated employees. We are not able to make a mandate, but to protect our in-person learning, we are able to provide that for free for all of our employees. So we're asking all of our folks who are unvaccinated to participate in pool testing, which I think will help us to protect our in-person learning. So thank you for the question. And our principals have already been having those conversations with their folks, but I wanted you all to be aware of that. The OSHA is still kind of on hold, so we can't mandate vaccines or pool testing, but I talked to our legal and we can strongly recommend pool testing. So that's what I'm doing. I wanted you to be aware. Thank you.
And if that is mandated, the OSHA, then that would kind of,
As a board, we could vote on vaccinations and on pool testing, but I think that right now, pool testing is a pretty good ask, and I think it's reasonable because it keeps our students in school. There also will be some updates to the standing operating procedures on COVID. They're saying in early January, and they're going to be less burdensome on our nurses, so we will see. I'm hopeful, but so we may get some changes to it. We'll report those as we get them.
okay.
Christy, is there anything else you want to add on that? Oh, maybe that would be good too. For over the holiday, there's something we're doing too. Go ahead.
Pool testing stops this Friday for all public schools in the state of Maine, and they recommended that we do the Buy an X Now testing on athletes that are unvaccinated over the course of the holiday timeframe. So they'll be tested on the 22nd. We just worked out the schedule, Steve and I did, on the 22nd, and then again on Monday and Wednesday of the following week. That information will go home on Friday.
And that's only for our school athletes.
Only for our school athletes and coaches and referees. Yep, all of them, for any winter sport that's occurring. Okay.
Trying to do things as normal as we can. I have to tell you, I was at the basketball game last night. Everybody was there with masks on. They're doing the right thing. So we're trying to maintain as much normalcy as we can. So thank you all for your support again.
Okay, and no last questions or comments? No? Okay, so just a quick note that, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of us when, I say that I want to extend our heartfelt appreciation to all of our teachers, our staff and administrators, especially during these uniquely difficult times. We understand and we know that the burnout is definitely real. So I'd like to send out a shout out to every single one of our admired educators who are committed to this profession and are really doing an excellent work, all while experiencing the stress and the fatigue and the burnout. You are exemplars and are unsung heroes. You are teaching and modeling for our students strength and resilience. So thank you all so much. And with that, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All righty. And I think now we can just say all in favor? All righty. Thank you so
Motion
much.
passes. Thanks. Good job.
Yes, thank you.
I think it'll be good to add that committee. It's going to be good.
I think I'm excited.